Hello, my listeners. This is Wiktor Doctor, and this is another episode of Good Morning BSS World podcast. Today with a guest, and my guest is Shane Hanrahan. Hello, Shane.
Hi, how are you doing, Victor?
Very well, very well. How are things in Ireland?
Good. Everything's good. It's lovely. It's dry, which is unusual, so it's all good.
Yeah, I do remember Dublin from my frequent visits in the past, but usually it was raining or windy.
Yeah, luckily it's we've had a couple of dry days and just got a little bit cold, but no, it's good. It's good. The spring is here. Daffodils are coming up. Everything's good.
I need to go there one day again.
Definitely.
Shane, the reason why we meet is that actually you as Cpl have recently released a very interesting report. The report about the salaries. Actually, this is not a report. This is a guide. This is a salary guide, which is focused on 4 countries: Poland, Czech Republic, Slovakia, and Hungary. How did you find the idea of actually putting those 4 countries into one guide?
Well, in the past, and I'm only with Cpl 1 year, but in the past, normally the focus was on Poland because we had the largest amount of branches, and obviously Poland has the highest population. But we do have a presence in Slovakia. We do have one in the Czech Republic and Hungary. So we thought this year, let's put them all 4 together. Let's have a look at what comes out. I mean, we'd often have clients, because we have a presence also in Ireland and the UK and the States to a smaller degree, we would have clients who'd like to compare in different areas. So I think it's a lot easier for a client if they at least have 3 or 4, maybe 5 countries where they can pick on quite easily. And the countries that we are supplying are very well educated, have a good mature workforce. They also have mature agencies, so it could be a natural choice for a lot of countries. And I also found that the level of English in all these countries is very good, so it's easy for companies to have some sort of service in those countries. So that was the reason, try and have it all in one place.
And does it really happen often that actually your clients, that's how I understand it, would like to have a larger view of the whole region? Or this is rather like comparing Poland to Czech, for example, or Slovakia to Czech?
No, they definitely would like to have a larger view of the different regions. I mean, the likes of Czech Republic or Slovakia might be more towards your shared services, and then Poland might be more towards your manufacturing, your IT. So one company doesn't have everything in one place nowadays. Germany would look into these countries for setting up in some way, or Ireland, because the salaries in Ireland are getting expensive. So it just gives a better view. There is different costs of employment in these countries, but as a base salary, it just gives a nice idea of what's where. But one of the biggest things we do find is a lot of these countries are coming to close employment. But definitely pre-COVID, they were very much at full employment. So the availability of the workforce is just as important as the salaries. But it does give a good overview.
You mentioned shared services. This is actually the area which I am very, very much interested in how it develops. It's over 2 decades now when the BPOs and shared services are growing in the Central and Eastern Europe. And it looks like it is not the end. It is still an attractive region for this kind of companies who want to set up their operation centers in here. Was there anything what surprised you during analyzing the salaries within the region when creating this report?
It did show that the Czech Republic and Slovakia were very much as shared service centers. There was a lot in there. We did notice post-COVID that a lot of the volume had gone down quite quickly in these areas. And a lot of the big names, your Pfizers, your UPSs, all the big logistics centers would have shared services in these areas. The level of English is excellent in these countries as well. So we have some recruiters that only speak English, they don't speak the local language. But are you asking in terms of just the volume of people employed in these areas, or
the
way you thinking?
Yeah, let's touch this.
Yeah, so definitely our branches would have, one of our main pillars in all branches would be ML, or multilingual as we call it. So post-COVID, it was very, very busy. During COVID, then there was more people available on the ground, and there was a tendency to put more volume in through the guys that were working within the industries. So there was less a demand agency-wise for multilingual. But we have noticed that it's picked up again since probably January. especially within the logistics companies. So we would deal with the likes of UPS, who've come back with huge volumes. Overall, the industry is picking up again, but it probably was one that suffered the most within the agencies within the clients that we've had. And then the internal TA teams as well are probably hiring a bit more for their multilingual teams. So it's a bit of a mix, but it's definitely coming back.
Yeah, it does. And actually, there was one thing which surprised me when I was reading this report, because I believe it was in the Czech Republic session, where in the section of demand for languages, there was Polish. It looks like that Czechs are looking for Polish speakers to their shared services who are based in Czech Republic.
Yeah, I mean, everything we've had: Polish, Arabic, every language is sort of looked for in the Czech market. Even in the Polish market, we've had a couple of IT companies looking for Vietnam, Japanese, Chinese speakers. So, you know, these markets are so big over there that part and parcel is having these languages that they're probably not used to hiring for. But yeah, Polish language in the Czech market is not unusual. You have to consider the size of Poland. So it is a huge market. The country is definitely getting wealthier, so there's going to be greater demand for products and services. So I think Polish as a language is going to be key going forward. German is another one, obviously, that's got massive demand for. We're always looking for German, and then, you know, the hard to get languages that are in Scandinavia, but it's a complete mix of anything. Like, we're even looking for accountants with Greek in Slovakia at the moment, or in Czech Republic. So, you know, you have your international clients there who just demand all languages. That's the way it is at the moment.
Yeah, with this German, I believe it is never-ending stories. Since I remember, the BPO and SSC industry has a huge demand for German speakers, and it is not changing. It's surprising that actually the countries should develop the language skills of people who are studying within those countries, but it's all the time big demand for this language.
Everywhere. Scandinavian and German, there's always a demand for them.
Yeah,
the problem is that the salaries are so good in those countries. You know, Germans probably won't come to Ireland for, you know, for 25k positions, 20,000, 25k positions. They can easily get that in Germany. So that's the difficulty with the high salaried countries in the multilingual stage. So, you know, we'll often get a lot of, definitely in Poland, German speakers in Poland, you know, because there is a good level of German in Poland. But outside Poland, it's a bit more difficult.
Yeah, that's true. That's what I hear as well. Shane, let's drop into those 4 countries, because the report which you have released has very clear 4 sections. One is dedicated to Czech Republic, the other to Hungary, then to Slovakia and to Poland. Are there any specific outputs from that report which you have seen, analyzed, or would like to share, which are specific for each of those countries?
Well, Czech Republic and Slovakia can be very much, a lot of it is very much the same. So you've got your shared services, engineering, particularly in Czech Republic, engineering is quite strong. Logistics is quite strong. And again, Czech Republic so close to the German border, a huge amount of logistics. And then the common thread through all the countries is IT, particularly in Poland. It's very strong in Poland. You know, you have the likes of Microsoft, I think, investing $1 billion, data centers going up in Poland. But if there's one sector or pillar that has helped us the most through these times, it's the IT sector. You know, I can even see that Irish companies are approaching us and asking, can we facilitate IT or tech in Poland? The working from home solution now has opened up the whole market for tech companies. But yeah, if you go back to Pacifics, Czech Republic, you got your shared services. Engineering is probably quite strong in Czech Republic, and your tech. You go into Bratislava, it's pretty much the same. You've got your shared services, engineering and tech. Poland, I would say tech and ML is where we've the most drive, but definitely tech is really, in the last 3 months in Poland, tech has really shot up. And Hungary then, again, more marketing, your social media, shared services, again, seems to be quite well established. but across all those regions as well, there's definitely, and we're not so much into the space, but our Irish and UK counterparts, life science is massive, especially the German market. Life science is really big, but much of that is on a PSL system. So you don't just walk into a life science company and get business off them. It's generally through a tender or a PSL system. So it takes longer to break into those markets. But you know, for the pillars we're in, that's what we see. But it's definitely all picked up in the last 4 weeks. Definitely an uptake. They say that Poland is the next tech. We did a LinkedIn profile quite recently, and Poland was definitely the next hotspot for tech. Actually, there's actually more people coming into Poland with tech than leaving it. Ukraine as well, they say, is another hotspot for tech going forward. So it'll be interesting to see how those countries develop.
Yeah, that's true, absolutely. And I can also see that there are also such moves that a lot of Ukrainian or Belarusian companies are now opening or developing within Poland. So this is like creating cross-border cooperation and growing this IT services delivery from the larger scale than just from one country. Just one more question about this IT. You mentioned IT, but I believe this is rather focused on the software development and all of that stuff rather than this, let's say, hardware part of IT, isn't it?
Yeah, very much software. Yeah, very much software, yeah. I mean, all the stuff we would have at the moment be software. Then you have your fintech as well, is getting very big. I know I want to repeat myself, but Microsoft and data centers, all that infrastructure is starting to happen within the space in Poland. And we've seen it here in Ireland, but I think the scale is going to be much bigger in Poland because you're a bigger country and you have higher volume of workforce. But certainly 90% of what we're doing is in the soft space.
Okay.
Yeah.
2020, so 2020 was a pandemic year, and actually in the very beginning, like 12 months ago, no one expected how the market would change. But how does it look like in the area of salaries? Did the salaries within the last year were stable, or they just grew very much, or what kind of trends did you notice?
Well, again, we would say it's very specific to the sector you're in. The tech, for us, salaries hasn't changed, and the volume hasn't changed either. I think what happened really, we noticed for the first 3 months, business just died a death. So the months of, just having a quick look here, I think April, May, June, it really everything just stopped. Everybody said, right, what's happening? We need to get all our tech. We were lucky in CPL that we had everybody moved to a mobile platform. And most of our services were hosted, so we could literally work from anywhere. But we did notice the first 3 months, a lot of companies were adjusting to what tech they had, where they're ready to establish, where they're ready to move forward. So you could see a freeze in those 3 months. And then from July on, business sort of got back to normal. And since then, you know, lockdown, no lockdown, it hasn't really affected business much. It's probably improved a little bit because people just have adjusted. So in terms of salaries in the ML space, yes, salaries would have moved down. There would have been more people definitely available on the market. And as I said, more of the internal TA teams within companies would have been hiring directly. Tech, we didn't see any change in salaries in tech. The engineering, I think less demand for staff rather than trying to reduce the salaries and getting cheaper staff. So I would say just a reduction. It was just like a little bit of a pause on everything. But we can definitely see since January, the taps are back on. But good people in good sectors, generally the wages will stay the same. So okay. I would say down to the skill level and down to the sector to determine any change in salaries. But very little. I mean, a lot of companies might have asked for the first 3-4 months for some help with salaries or small reductions, but overall, I think we're back to where we were.
Within this your report, there are hundreds of different positions. Hundreds. I have calculated that only for Poland you've got nearly 200 different roles which are identified over there. So it's a huge job which you did during your research. Just by curiosity, what kind of positions or roles are now in the biggest demand? Because we have discussed already the areas like IT, like logistics, like life science, but is the market rather looking for the junior positions or now in very experienced positions already?
I think most of our hardest to hire fills at the moment are experienced positions, the higher up. Roles that we have had open for any length of time are generally on senior positions, or if they're on a tech, they're on quite qualified tech or a lot of experience. So, 5+ years is generally the positions that we're finding harder to fill. There's also in the tech market, it's a bit of we call it an employee-led market. So they know that they'll get a job tomorrow and they can fish around for different rates and different pay and different conditions. So I would say, the roles that we've had going from Ireland over to Poland were generally of a senior level. And I think people are prepping for, the vaccinations coming now. So people are starting to prep, starting to get their teams back to full capacity. So yeah, I think it's more on the higher level, senior or middle management to senior management. Mm-hmm. It's more difficult to hire positions.
Okay, and what are the other challenges which you have identified during creating this report when it comes to the recruitment market process?
Yes. So, one of the biggest challenges, and I think it's a company level as much as at individual level, is working from home. So we can definitely see that people want a hybrid system. They don't want to go back to 5 days working in an office. We had one client recently who couldn't offer that facility, and the candidates didn't want to take the positions. Now, I don't think it's ever going to be the feedback we're getting from clients is they don't want to go to a full a full working from home system. A lot of them will want staff coming in to share knowledge, sort of a center of excellence. But if you don't have a hybrid system of 2-3 days at home, in sectors where you can work from home, I think it's going to be a huge challenge to get the best talent, and especially in tech. I don't think you're going to get talent in tech without working from home model, if the person wants it. There's also a challenge at the moment about people leaving positions. So, you're going to leave a steady, secure position going into a new position that you're going into probationary period. So there's definitely difficulty. I'd say we're down 40% in availability because candidates just don't want to change until they're sure that COVID's over and that the company they're going into is completely secure. So that's a huge challenge for us. Counter offers are happening a lot more because of that. At the very end stage, going back to their present employers and they're getting counter offers, and they're probably taking it because of that security. So that's a challenge. The whole thing around wellness. So we're very apt in CPL. We have a big wellness program internally, trying to keep everybody engaged. There's definitely a feeling in all the markets and all our own staff is that they want to get back to the office 1 to 2 days a week. And you can imagine if you're a junior recruiter or junior in any position, how do you learn? How do you upskill when you're not sitting beside your colleagues? The best way to learn in recruitment is to listen. And it's very hard to listen, obviously, if you're sitting on your own. So like all the guys want to get back 1 to 2 days a week, at least in the office, but we can't because we're in lockdown. So mental health, wellness is a huge thing, and we've been trying our best to engage through platforms. But I think the obvious thing is we all need to contact, and even 2 days a week would make a huge difference to staff at the moment. So that's a mixture of things in the new world. But I think working from home is going to be, we all have to wake up to that and realize that it's not a privilege anymore. It's going to be part of life.
Yeah, this is funny. Yeah, that a few years ago, actually, it was like a benefit for employees that we will allow you to work from home 1-2 days a week or 1-2 days a month or whatever. But now it looks like this is absolutely not a benefit. It is a must-have element of a regular life. I believe also that this is, let's say, challenging time for the recruiters, because now everything moved to online. And I know that we've got the technology which allows us to run the recruitment process or verify the candidates over the video or whatever other technology. But I guess that this is also a big exercise for you, how to find out that actually an employee which you are targeting, which you are recruiting, is the right one for the job you are looking for.
Yeah, it is a bigger challenge. Now obviously it makes the process a lot easier, but for the client, you know, you haven't sat down traditionally and met the candidate face to face and got that sense of what the candidate's like. So it's much harder to build that relationship. And there's a lot of cases now where the candidate is being interviewed, he's been screened through the recruitment process, he's then brought forward to the client and they've interviewed him. He's been onboarded virtually and he's sitting in an office with the client and he hasn't met anybody physically. So, but that's just the way it is at the moment, and it seems to be working well. We've had very little what we would call is rebates in the system. So naturally, a recruitment business will have some sort of rebate system. We've had very little rebates because of people falling out of the process or not being successful. But it is important then for HR companies to have a good HR policy that they can review and do all their assessments and one-to-ones or whatever processes they have virtually with candidates that they've never actually met. So a good onboarding system is crucial, and we have seen a lot of clients really have a good onboarding system. Like if you join CPL, it's all virtual now, and it's a good onboarding system. It's about a week long, but nothing's ever going to be the same as actually physically sitting down and meeting in person, you know. And I think it'll get back to that. Probably the final stage might be physical meet, but we can't do it at the moment. But it is more of a challenge. But as I say, the success is quite high. We haven't had much rebates or people fall out of the system post being offered a position. And I think, you know, another thing it does do for the employer is that it opens up the amount of the market for them. So where you might have an office in Warsaw, can you now employ somebody in Poznan, or can you employ somebody in Prague, because really they only need to come to the office once a month. So for a lot of companies, the world is a smaller place, or the market is much bigger if you're allowing your business to do that, where it can. So it'll be interesting to see what comes out of that.
So it's like creating virtual teams.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. You know, Amazon will be very big into that. I did some time at Amazon, and very much a huge percentage of their workforce is virtual. They just have a very good network that it works. But, you know, they can go and employ somebody in the corner of anywhere once they have a bit of Wi-Fi and give them the tech, and they open up the market to themselves. So I think the future where it is possible, we can go to any parts of the world and create a team there. So it'll be interesting to see. And that's why platforms like, you know, your Zooms and your Teams are all shot up, and because of this technology allows that. But it'll be interesting to see how it works from a psychological point of view. You know, it'll be interesting.
Yeah, you mentioned Amazon here, and Amazon just announced to enter Poland, so it looks like that maybe they will create those virtual teams all around our country.
Yeah, they just entered Ireland as well. They're just building they're looking for a huge warehouse in Ireland at the moment.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It's a big expand of this business. They are already huge, and now it looks like they are going to be even bigger on the local markets. Yeah. Okay, you just touched the topic of the future. Let's maybe focus on that. What kind of trends do you think we may expect in 2021 besides this hybrid model? Yeah, because this I guess is something what will stay with us. Any other thoughts after preparing your report?
The wellness industry is going to get huge, definitely. You know, it's keeping employees engaged, taking care of their mental health. It's going to get really. I think there's going to be a big explosion in that industry. Upskilling. So we would have a platform where we train people. I think virtual upskilling is going to get bigger and bigger. You know. Centers of excellence, maybe that type of thing, where you bring in your core workers for 2 days and you just have that center. You know, Accenture would have a centers of excellence, Amazon have it. So people come in and download or upload and leave again. So that whole engagement piece is going to be stronger and stronger and stronger. Technology is obviously very important. And then for companies, they're going to look at their cost base and how do we do things better? How do we, I suppose, if there was another pandemic, how do we protect ourselves from that, and what's our model like going forward? You know, we've definitely had feedback from clients who've saved a massive amount of money on travel, on physically renting properties. They've looked at wasted travel. What have we done and got the same outcome that we used to spend a lot of money to try and get the same outcome? So there's huge savings coming down the line. So what does that look like going forward? And as I said, and as you alluded to, that this whole mindset of we can work from home, and we have a couple of clients that would have said no way, and now they've changed over and saved huge amounts of money. So things would be your savings, physical savings, your employee engagement, your employee wellness, and then your working from home model, and what does that look like? Obviously it works well in the service sector, but obviously if there's a physical product, it's quite different. And you've even seen things like, you've probably seen virtual reality, where engineers in Italy can look at tech over in, I was looking at a food factory in England. There was an engineer in Italy. There was a guy in the UK just wearing his virtual reality mask, and he was looking at all the engineering, and it was just getting fixed online. So that whole new world has probably opened up and is a bit more acceptable. But that's a little bit out of where we are, but it's just an interesting concept.
Yeah, this is amazing part, this VR, what it may do. Yeah, now you can use your mobile as a VR device, just having a proper glass or whatever type of tool it is, and you can run the full scope of training or motivation or whatever via this technology. I also believe that this VR, which few years ago it was just like only connected with some gaming industry or something like that. Now it's very much focused on education, upskilling, and so on and so on. So yeah, I do agree. This is something really, really important, what may hit us even stronger than so far. So it looks like very human-oriented elements like wellness, upskilling, centers of excellence, very, very human-oriented trends.
Yeah, and that's the feedback we got back from that report. Even talking to Monica, who put it together, a lot of the feedback is all, I said, it's all very human. It's all very interaction, engagement. What didn't come out was the synergies that companies can make, and increasing profits. Like we certainly see it in CPL that we have to really engage with the staff and keep them motivated. You just don't know what's happening at home, or how difficult it is, or what their living circumstances are. I think health and safety is going to become a big thing going forward about your workstations at home. That's a whole new area that's going to open up. Ergonomics. We'll see how that all pans out, but it is definitely the human thing, and connection seems to be quite big, from what I can see.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So, for the end of our chat, let's take a look on CPL. What are your plans for 2021 in Europe?
But in Europe?
Yeah. Or let's focus on the CEE, that this will be closer.
Yeah, well, growth is obviously at the top of any company's plans. We're owned now by a big company called Outsource Inc., who basically have a conglomerate of companies, and we're one of them. CPL as a business turned over about 650 million last year. Our plans are to grow. We're probably realigning the CEE region as much as we can, and we're going to realign it then with the Irish and the UK and a bit from the States. We're definitely going to look into the life science space going forward. Opportunities within Germany. We have a very small presence in Germany, and we're going to look at that. But like most recruitment, it's about specialization. If you're all things to everybody, generally that doesn't work. Auto is part of our remit now, so we may look at how can we synergize with Auto in terms of our offering and what we're going to do. But our plan is very much to grow. And we think we're in some really good fields, especially the tech field. We're in the right fields to do that growth. But like anything, like water, if you stay stationary, you get stagnant. So we have to keep growing. And I think that's security for a lot of our staff to know that we are growing and we have a big bank balance and we can support these times. that gives them great peace of mind, and they can believe in the company. So, but look, we're like everybody else. We've had to deal with downsizing. We've had to deal with loss and turnover. But I just don't see each lockdown. I don't see that big drop anymore. People are sort of we're at that level playing field, and we're just going to build on it. And hopefully, if the CEE region is out of COVID by June, July, August, maybe more September at this stage, we'll just get that lift and move on from there. But growth is what's on the cards. I think we're definitely smarter. We've learned a lot through this, and we've got closer with our clients as well, how they work. And I think those synergies will definitely help in the future. But
I will keep my fingers crossed for that, because it sounds like a very good plans for those, let's say, challenging times.
Yeah.
And I hope that this pandemic is going to be shorter than this one, which happened the world 100 years ago, because the last time, 100 years ago, it took 3 years. So now we are in the middle of a second year, and I hope we are closer to the end rather than to the middle.
I think so. I know in Ireland we're sort of saying September, but look, I think by the end of this year, worst case scenario, which is what we're all planning for, it'll be something in the past, I hope. But people have adjusted as far as I can see, so it'll give them hopefully a bit of light at the end of the tunnel. But it's all good. It's all good.
Yeah, it is. It is. Shane, thank you very much for this chat. Thank you very much for all of the information. Just for the end, if there was anything you would advise your clients who are looking to grow their businesses within Poland, Czech Republic, Slovakia and Hungary, so what kind of such advice would that be?
Well, it depends what way they want to grow, but from an agency point of view, people who don't use agencies, the big benefit of an agency is that we can do a lot of the work, and we have a lot of the comparables. So, you might be out there on your own and you're producing glasses, but you don't really know what the rest of the entities are doing. As I said, we've one client who didn't want to have a working from home offering, and now he realizes if he doesn't change that, he's not going to get the best talent. So coming to us, we can say, well, this is what's happening on an industry level, or this is what's happening on a country level, and we can support you with that. So people nowadays don't just take a job because of salary. It's about the holistic thing. What do you have to offer? What training? What wellness? What healthcare packages? What's my future look like? So the 20-year-old of today is very different to the 20-year-old of 20 years ago. And we have to start thinking like them a lot more. So research pays a lot. But I would certainly say, come to an agency like yourselves and get the advice and get the support, or research the market about how talent really wants to engage with companies, because it's quite different at the moment. And we certainly see with our younger guys how they like to engage. It's a very different model to when you and I were probably looking for our first jobs. So do your research, become modern, and look at new technologies. That's what I would say. And that's a perfect summary of our chat today. Thank you very much. Thanks, Wiktor. And that's it for today. It was a great chat with Shane Hanrahan, CEE Associate Director from Cpl CEE and Cpl Institute, about the CEE Salary Guide 2021. You can find the link to the report in the description of this episode, and I do encourage you to go deeply into this report, as you may find there a lot of interesting information. Czech Republic, Hungary, Slovakia and Poland. Those were the 4 countries analyzed by Cpl. Thank you for today, and let's meet sometime in the future. Thank you. Bye-bye.